Welcome to Sports CTO Talks. In this series, we would be connecting with industry leaders from the sports and technology domain to simplify sports technology for all. I am Ami, your guide on this journey through the minds of amazing tech leaders who are shaping the future of sports. We will dive deep into discussions driving the industry, from AI to cloud, from cybersecurity to sustainability. If it is tech, we are talking about it. Today, we have a very interesting guest with us, Mr. Paul Roberson. He is the CEO and founder of Flo Unleashed. Flo Unleashed is a patented hands-free athletic performance training harness that delivers multi-directional resistance with unrestricted 360 degrees mobility and real-time data insights, empowering athletes to train how they play with resistance. From sports performance to rehabilitation, their technology is redefining movement for strength, agility, and recovery. We welcome you, Paul, to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So today, Paul would be sharing, the entrepreneurial journey and what is required as a leadership in startups. He would be talking from concept to creations. So, Paul, my first question to begin with is, what was your initial idea? How did it initiate? And what were the specific problems when you started your journey?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty in it, in just solving a problem. I started off solving my own problem. I wanted a hands-free dog leash. I wanted a hands-free dog leash. I was a big runner, and every time I went running, I could do a couple miles in 30 minutes. But every time I took my dogs with me, I was constantly doing the whole hand-to-hand leash exchange, going from one hand to the other, the dog going around me, doing the doggy dance. And so, a run with my dogs turned into an hour run. And, the essence, the pain point was I just wanted our runs to flow seamlessly, without me dealing with the frustration of the hand to hand leash exchange. And so that night, I remember it clear as day. I went on Amazon and Google because this is the technology age where we think everything already exists. But when you find out that it doesn't exist, that's where you get to make a decision whether you're going to be the person to solve it, or you're just going to continue to wait until someone else solves it.
Absolutely.
And my pain point was deep enough, and I was passionate enough about my dogs to where I just jumped off the cliff and went to the deep end trying to figure out how to design a concept that was in my head. Once we experience the problem, usually you experience a wish. So it's like, oh, this problem, I wish this was here, or I wish this was different. And so once I had that problem, I was like, oh, I wish I had a hands-free dog leash that moved around my hips with me. Because later on, I found out everything was stationary at the hips. So dog leashes or athletic training harnesses, they're not designed to move around the user's waist. They just have a belt with a metal loop that does not move around you. Therefore, you only have a linear angle. So, yeah, it all started with me wanting to solve a hands-free dog leash. And 4 years after I took on that journey, I got the first prototype, the functional prototype. I put it on, and I basically had a oh shit moment where I realized I accidentally revolutionized the speed and agility harness for athletes. And I knew that because I played free safety out in West Georgia. So I played football for many years since I was 7 years old. So I definitely knew the equipment that existed, and most importantly, the equipment that did not exist. And so once I had the prototype and I identified, oh wow, this is for athletes, not just dog runners. We went from Flow Doggy, FLO Doggy, a new leash on life, and we pivoted to Flow Technology, releasing its debut product, Flo Unleashed. Train how you play with resistance. And that's where we are today.
Okay. So, how did you validate your product in the real market with real athletes? And, before the concept or before you investigating or investing in it significantly, your time and your resources?
Yeah, so there's, with us entrepreneurs, especially when you're building a new product, there is a lot of stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. Because you have to validate, you have to test, validate, expand, test, validate, reassess, test, validate, reassess. And so the idea, is one, it was in my head. So it's like, how do you bring an idea to life? I had to learn about CAD design, computer automated design. That was number one. And then, after I learned CAD design, I had the design, in a file. Now you got to bring it to life. So I had to learn about 3D printing and all the different fulfillments to kind of 3D print something to kind of test the dimensions and the look and feel of it. After I got validated that process, the 3D print, oh, this looks good. Then I had to find a manufacturer. And that was probably a hard part, right? Finding a manufacturer that wants to work with the startup. Because let's just be honest, startups don't have much money in the beginning. And manufacturers, they're looking for, players, people who will give them enough volume to keep manufacturing something over and over again, right? And I just did not have that. So it took many years to find a manufacturer. I finally found one. And then, of course, you go through different iterations of prototypes. And so, and usually that comes down to form and fit and user friendliness of it. And so we went through probably about 5 to 6 different iterations of prototypes. Once it, passed my test, which was, is this something I would want to wear every day if I ran with my dogs? Is it comfortable? Does it work? Um, and then also testing it as an athlete because I am a two-part customer. I'm an ex-athlete that played collegiate football at a high level, and then I also have dogs. So I tested the belt with myself. Whereas many people, especially engineers, usually you got to test with people who are not engineers. You got to, send it to your demographic, right? Your intended demographic. Where well, I was the demographic. So after having that product market fit and check mark with myself, then it was like, okay, who who else will want to see this? So then you'll go to dog parks. Hey, you want to wear this? Try out this new 360 dog leash. They like it and they say, where can I get one? That was a good indication that, hey, this might be a good fit for dog owners. And then I got an opportunity to meet with the Atlanta Falcons and the UFC Performance Institute. Dr. Duncan French over at the UFC, wonderful, amazing human being. He did not have to give me the time that he did. He did give me his time, and he gave me his constructive feedback, which was amazing. That actually led to me still reaching out, having the ability to get in contact with Dr. Duncan French, and then also the Atlanta Falcons with their strength and conditioning team. And so those were essentially the two B2B players that I was able to send a prototype to and get them to put it through their little gauntlet of tests. And it came out great. They both said that they would love it. They would love to have them in their gym. And that was the I guess you could say the product market fit validation I got for a B2B model.
Okay. So, what were the other obstacles other than the manufacturing part in transforming your idea into a tangible product? And how did you overcome that?
Well, I'll answer it. I'll go reverse. I overcame everything. All the barriers and hurdles have been overcome through just tenacity and resilience. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing, I don't have a master's in background in manufacturing or supply chain. I'm not an engineer by trade. I am just a person who had a deep enough pain point and nobody was solving it. And I'm the type of person where if no one's doing it, I'll do it. And so tenacity and resiliency, no matter what the idea is. Um, outside of that, uh, it you literally just have to be open to going in dark rooms, to finding the light. And with that being said, I had to go in to learn about patents, patent law, right? And everything is a different language. Everything is a different language. Legal, they have their own language. Manufacturing, they have their own language. The sports scientists the sports science and the physical, performance trainers, they have their own language. And so not only do you have to go through each phase of the business, and it's essentially a lesson that you will receive, um, but you'll come out more talented and well equipped with knowledge. And after you're able to kind of go through all of those initial introductions with each of those phases, legal, manufacturing, sales, marketing, business dev, XYZ, um, I think that is where, all the different perspectives will come together, and you'll have a clear indication on your roadmap forward. And it's not about what to do next. Everyone says what to do next. What should I do? How should I think we should reverse engineer it? My 2 cents, which isn't worth a cup of coffee, but my 2 cents. Um, stay focused on what not to do. Because if you focus on what not to do, at least you'll save money on wasting money on things that you knew you shouldn't do. And what to do, that becomes an exploration phase. And at least you can be more methodical with what you choose to do after you identify what not to do.
Absolutely. So when you were talking about money, the most important question for startups, like, how did you approach or in securing funding in the early days? Or what should sports tech startups take into considerations, in seeking capital in the early stages?
Oh, so I've never had a check written to me. It's always been bootstrapped, and I've been very lucky to have invested in like stocks, crypto, real estate, in my late 20s. I'm 41 now. But luckily in my late 20s, I invested into these things to where, after 5 years of investing, I was able to have some funds to pull from to get things across the finish line. So, and luckily for me, a lot of the partners that I identified that are willing to work with us, they totally understood my position as a startup, but they also understood the vision and the product and the scalability of the product. So they took a chance on me. And taking a chance is, if we're not able to pay things on time, but as long as we maintain our payments. My law firm, they had, payables on my account for almost like, 14 months, which is a long time for a law firm to be able to just hang on and say, hey, we're not going to close you out, but you still just make your payments. And so I think that's very important, the scrappy, for entrepreneurs in the early stage to be very scrappy and to not have any expectations of people helping you, or any expectations of, I could get grant funding. Or every time someone has an idea, I would say, think forward as if you have to do it all on your own. How would you do it? And if investors come along, if co-founders come along, anything like that, that's great. But have no expectations, because expectations usually lead to very, very low disappointments.
So, like, these days, people want things quick. So, as a
Yes.
entrepreneur, how did, like, your journey took? Like, how much time did it take? And what would you advise to other people who are starting up to have patience? And, like, this is a certain amount of time which requires, and you need to invest that time.
Yeah, so for me, the night I had the idea when I was on that run with my two dogs, I was 31 years old. I was 31 years old. So from that moment to where we are now, it took 10 years. 10 years for me to get here. But like I said, this was always an idea that I was working on in the background because I didn't have the money to go fast. I didn't have the money to, do legal, do manufacturing. If I did, I'd probably get everything done within 5 years. But that just wasn't my process. And I think people have to trust the process in with what that's laid out for them. I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. And so you gotta, trust the universe, trust, God, whoever that may be, that that they have a process intended for you. And so my process, I was lucky to where I was able to cut my teeth in regards to learning about business and startups by working for other companies. So my first company was a hydroponic farming company, vertical farming. And that's still operational today, going in Atlanta, Ponix Farms. But luckily for me, I had six other co founders, six other partners on that project. So it wasn't just all on me, and we all had the opportunity to learn from one another, right? To fill those gaps and move fast. And then from there, I got recruited to spearhead the Nevada market for Lyft, the rideshare company, where I did that successfully for essentially 3 years. And that was the first time I was issued a budget to, facilitate partnerships with. Whereas prior to that, it was very scrappy at Ponix, no budgets, very, got to get it out the mud. So with that being said, if it were not for my time at Ponix, if it were not for my time at Lyft, I would have had a many more knowledge gaps on business and what not to do and how to do some things. But because of my time at Lyft and Ponix, those allowed me to sharpen my talents and skill set and perspective on how to build companies from the ground up and how to prioritize certain things when developing a company from the ground up.
Perfect. So, like, you were talking about a process, believe in the process and follow the process. So, what are a few key moments or decisions which have helped or which can help in scaling up a product?
Processes that can help scale up a product.
Or any key moments or
I was,
decisions you feel, like the startup founders should keep in mind?
yeah, key moments, so there's a lot of key moments, many key moments. You know, a key moment could be when we first received our first patent in like 2018. First patent on 2018, and we didn't even have a prototype yet, but we already filed for patents and got our first patent. That was a key moment that, there's momentum. And I say key moments is momentum, right? Um, Another key moment is when I found a manufacturer that was willing to work with me on building out the product, and excuse me, they were a small manufacturing firm in San Francisco. But they were open to working with me. That was great. Another key moment was working at Lyft, right? Working with people smarter than me that went to Harvard or Stanford, or Wharton, and getting the opportunity to just, get their feedback on what I'm doing with Flow technology. And, that actually led me to the CMO from Lyft, Jabari Hearn. Big shout out to Jabari. Um, if it weren't for him, I do not know if we would have landed on Flow technology. He was the one who planted the seed in my a thought, saying, "You have patents. This is technology. because of the simple fact that we did have the tech enablement in the future to be implemented. So he's like, Flow Technology and his debut product, Flo Unleashed. And he just brought that narrative together seamlessly. So that was a key moment. And then obviously the most important key moment was the day we got the first prototype, functional prototype. And I put it on and I did the first spin and it was very smooth. And I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And it was better than what I expected. So from there, that gave me the courage and the confidence to share it with the rest of the world. And that is where I had the opportunity to reach out to some fraternity brothers of mine, Omega Psi Phi, and they were able to reach into their connections, and that is where I was able to get connected with the Atlanta Falcons, and that is also where I met my co-founder, Roderick Moore, as because he was the strength and conditioning coach over at the Atlanta Falcons. So I think those were solid key moments for me in developing the business, but also, moving from one milestone to the next.
Absolutely. So as you were saying and talking about technology, so how is that journey been, imbibing into the industry trends, what are going on right now? How technology has played a role in that?
Tremendously. So even back in 2015, I already knew that I wanted to tech enable the belt. If it was still going to be a dog leash, I wanted there to be a sensor on it to where it can talk to my Fitbit, because that's when I had a Fitbit in 2015. I had a Fitbit, the first one of the few, one of the first, I guess, iterations, and that planted the thought with I want a sensor in the belt that can track me and my dog's runs. And that obviously led to where we are now in sports tech, where I was very fortunate enough to where we built the real estate on the belt for sensors to live. So therefore, when we do have the sensor development ready to be deployed, we don't have to redesign the belt. It's all the real estate and where sensors will live are already there. And we knew, and I knew as an athlete, that tech had a strong opportunity within sports. And at that time in 2015, again, this was early crypto, but this was when people were starting to be more, I guess you could say, tenacious on implementing technology where tech did not live. So, for instance, you have a company out there that put a sensor in the soles of the shoes for athletes, Plantaga. You have, a company out there that's putting the sensor on the back to track, stamina, Catapult Sports. So you have all these companies that saw opportunity for tech enablement to be implemented because it can extract data that will help strength coaches and players target their weak points, but also identify their strength points. And no one has essentially created a world's first smart belt. And that's essentially what we are. We're on our way to becoming the world's first smart belt. And our initial arena is the sports tech industry. And it's beauty to see, how much visibility data can provide for people to train better and smarter.
Absolutely. So, when you were discussing about bringing in a co-founder and lot many people into Flow Unleashed, so I want to understand that what was your approach in hiring and retaining top talent into the fast moving industry these days?
Yeah, I was lucky. I was very lucky to where it never felt, I've never felt like I had to recruit talent. Um, Everything was very organic in onboarding um, my managing partners. So Roderick Moore, I share with you, I met him through my fraternity brothers, and he was the Falcons, and I took him out to dinner after the demo, and that's where I learned that he also worked at Catapult Sports. He ran North American sales for a lot of the early sports tech companies, such as Catapult Sports, Vol Performance, Sparta Science, etc. And then that, organically, he introduced me to one of my top advisors, CJ Watson, who's a 10-year NBA vet, but he's also born and raised here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And he and I have kind of like the same circle of connections and friends here locally. So it was just very, very fluid. And then, of course, I was able to bring two managing partners that I worked with at Lyft, Cameron Bell and Cal. And one thing that I'm very fortunate about with my entire team, even with Benji Sloan, Elias Benjamin, Chris Cooper, Ramadre Stevenson, Danny Davis, everyone has a common denominator. And the common denominator is everyone has been battle tested. Everyone has been battle tested in the world of business and sports. So there's no learning curves needed in regards to adopting new skill sets or having to grow talent. Because I've been very fortunate to land some of the top talent in my eyes on the team, and everyone has led with passion in regards to how they got involved with us. And so not only do they have a passion for the product, but they also have the confidence in me as a founder, the CEO, just being able to bring an idea out of my head and bring it this far to where it made it, I'd hope an easy decision for them to want to join forces with me on this, because I've been able to get patents across the finish line. I've been able to get the manufacturing, the prototypes, and the partnerships across the finish line. So therefore, many of my team members did not have to come on board and build from the ground up with me. And that right there shows a lot about founders. If you're a founder and you can build, the company to a point to where everyone can see it, it's not no longer just a vision. Everyone, you have a functional prototype, or you have a well-written code or a website, whatever the case that people could go off. I think that there is a strong indication and a magnet within itself to attract talent that will be passionate just as the founder is on the product. And that is what I've been very, very fortunate to attract, is the talent and the passion that everyone brings to the team.
Absolutely. And the other side of the coin, how do you build authentic relationships with the customers and create a brand loyalty?
Yeah. And I think, any brand loyalty, we always got to think I like to think from my personal experiences. Why do I go to a certain restaurant all the time? Or why do I go to a certain store all the time? Or why do I, only get my internet from a certain company? It's because of the customer service. It's because of the accessibility. And that, is how we will win as a company, is through our partnerships, outside of our product, of course, is the partnerships that we'll be able to forge. And then also those partnerships will actually bring, incremental value to the industry, right? Because a lot of our partnerships, not only will we be trying to bring light and shed light on what they're doing and how they're using our product, but right now, even sports, everyone is focused on, not only the exchange, the give get of partnerships, but everyone wants to see everyone like speak highly of one another. And it's usually formed like, marketing, right? Oh, we just did a partnership with, to announce our partnership with Flow Technology. And I think that's where the magic starts, is brands want to see one another grow and flourish and be able to create either a new product or a new experience that either their players, their staff, or their fans can experience through this partnership. And so that's one thing that I've always led with, is not sales and transactions, but hey, how can we help you? Does this have an application in your gym? And that's how you're able to start authentic conversation and actually, start the relationship with authenticity is by just seeing if you can serve a need, and help them, pursue that path of getting better or being more competitive. And that right there is the magic in what we have outside of just the product.
Absolutely. So, in your journey of years, like these days, things are changing very fast, very quickly, very fast. So, how do you make tough call decisions during high pressure times or high pressure situations, and how to handle those?
Staying focused on what I don't want to do. Stay,
Absolutely.
staying focused, staying focused on what I don't want. And then, anything that is outside of that, like I said, I have a team now. So it's not, I'm able to distribute that pressure across all of us. And that is where, Cameron can, have a good perspective and understanding on a certain outcome of a decision, and he'll share his perspective with me. And that will be new light on how I see things. And I think that is the power where a team comes in. I'm not the CEO that feels like I have to make all the decisions. No, I just have to drive us towards making a decision, but I do not have to make the decision. I have to drive the team in helping me make the decision. And if we adopt that mindset as a founder and CEO, you'll never feel like you're on an island by yourself having to make this huge decision. Because now my team members, we all have a vested interest in being successful.
Absolutely. So, we'll move on to the next segment now. That's the rapid fire round. I will shoot a few questions and you will have to be quick in answering those.
Sounds good.
Okay. First, coffee or energy drinks for long startup nights?
Coffee.
If your startup had a mascot, what would it be?
Ooh, crash dummy.
Okay. If you could have lunch with any business leader, who would it be? Past, present, and famous.
Past, present, or famous. Past, present, or famous. I would have to say Henry Ford.
Okay. If your journey were a movie, what title would it be?
Breaking down barriers and building bridges.
Awesome. Which athlete do you admire for your entrepreneurial mindset?
My man, CJ Watson.
Absolutely. What's your secret weapon in tough negotiation? One sentence.
Knowing what you don't want.
Absolutely. That I agree. Okay, that was a good one. Now we'll move on to the next segment. That's you'll have to answer this question into 30 seconds. What is the role of AI into the entrepreneurial journey and how is it going to benefit startups?
You said the AI?
AI.
Yeah, AI is a phenomenal tool. And again, it's just one of those tools is based on how you use it. Because a LMM. So with that being said, the AI can only perform as best as you train it to be. It's not fully dependable. I do see AI being very impactful for a lot of SaaS businesses, especially enterprise tools. Although we definitely need to begin training more, I guess you could say, AI engineers to help manage the AI agents effectively. And I do see AI having a huge impact on for our data aggregation in regards to telling athletes what training drills to do next based on their output from the previous drill. So that is one of the ways how AI will be helping train our athletes to be better and to be more methodical in what they do next.
Perfect. Thank you, Paul, for joining us today and sharing the insights.
No, this was great. Thank you for having me. And I truly appreciate anyone who wants to talk about the world of sports tech.
Absolutely. So, everyone, let's stay connected. And for more understanding on sports and technology, please log on to the channel and share this video with your friends, families, and the people who love sports and technology. That was Paul sharing his experience today. And let's meet in the next episode next time. Till that, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep exploring.